Welcome, Shafonne Myers. Thanks for joining me today. First and foremost, I think Shafonne is a friend. We hit it off from the moment we met at a whip. I saw Shafonne do a sales presentation, essentially a sales training presentation at WIPA in Southern California. She absolutely knocked it out of the park. One of the greatest presentations I've seen on
Oh,
selling, really ever. And just one of the greatest personalities in the wedding industry that I've met. She is speaking on the main stage at Engage, and we're all very excited about that. But 19 years in the wedding industry, she's the owner of Isle Society. I'll let her explain what that is. Pretty Pair Brides, Southwest Wed, done it all, right? You've been a wedding planner.
oh yes, I was, and most people, some people that knew me back then know me as a planner. Most people know me as someone who has a blog, publisher, things like that. That's what most people know me as.
You've not only seen it in the wedding planning business, but you've also been talking to wedding planners as part of your kind of journalistic
Yes.
piece, right? Chiffon, tell me first of all, just tell everybody like what is Isle Planner, not Isle Society. Sorry, Isle
Yes. There
Society.
you
What is
go.
Isle
Yep.
Society, and what are you doing now in general?
So our society, the way I like to think of it, is kind of like a media company. So I describe it as a wedding media company. We have 10 publications now. We just picked up a new publication. We have 10 publications. Most of the bigger ones that we have, Pretty Pair Bride, which is the one that I started in 2011, which is the only publication for plus size brides in the world. Then we have Elizabeth Ann Design is under there, Brooklyn Bride is under there, Mountainside Bride is under there. We just acquired the Bridesmaid blog, which is a blog specifically for bridesmaids. Southwest Wed is there, Storyboard Weddings, So This Is Love is there. And I like to look at all of them because my main mission in the wedding industry is really about inclusivity, specifically size inclusivity. So I started in the industry with Pretty Pair Bride to really create a place for plus size brides to see themselves in bridal imagery. And that was what, 2011, years ago. And now, since I've acquired different verticals, I'm now able to make sure that all of these verticals really highlight brides and couples of all sizes. And I think that's my main mission. It's just how can I make the wedding industry see that it's not one size fits all?
Yeah,
All sizes, all ethnicities, everything is being shown in the wedding industry, and I want to show that more.
and I should mention that you also do some business consulting. I've hired
Yep.
you in the past to help me understand my business a little better and understand the wedding industry and to reach out to people. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, I want to talk to you about the things that you've seen, good and bad, when it comes to vows, speeches, and ceremonies. One of the things that I think about when I think about your business is that you're allowing people to be themselves, right? You're allowing a level of personalization. Not, inclusivity is one thing, but it's also expression, right? It's to be fully
Yes, I love how
expressed.
you. Yes.
And so obviously when it comes to the words, that's part of what we're trying to do too. But tell me, like, when you started in the wedding industry, when you started as a planner, what did you see that you maybe learned to correct later on as a wedding planner?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. And I actually had to write down fully expressed because I think that is such a key thing when you look at it. And I think when I came in, and so when I came into the wedding industry, I had graduated college. I went to an all-female college. I ran the organization on my campus for events. So that it was the biggest organization. We had like 500 people. I ran that. And so that's where I really got my love for events. And I think when I got to the wedding industry, I realized, hold on, like when you go from like events to the wedding industry, it's very different because you see that not fully expressed in the wedding industry. And especially when I came in and I started in 2004, 2005 is when I really started planning weddings. And I saw just a tempered, like you didn't see a lot of, especially me, you didn't see a lot of plus size brides on covers and magazines anywhere. So then you, as a plus size bride, you were not fully expressing yourself because you didn't see anyone that allowed you to know that it was okay to fully express yourself. And I just love how you described it as being fully expressed because I saw that mistake being made at brides would show up and they would be like, hey, I think I want to wear this type of dress because this is the type of dress that I think I should wear because I'm not seeing anyone else wearing anything else. Even though they probably wanted to wear something that looked totally different, but they weren't comfortable fully expressing themselves. And I think I saw it a lot in fashion. I saw it a lot in the planning process because, oh, well, I'm not really paying for it, so I don't really want to speak up or say that I want that or don't want that because I'm not the one paying. So I just really love how you say the fully express.
But it's easy to get locked into tradition, right? There's this
Yes.
idea where you have to say, for better or for worse, and all of the things that essentially everybody has said. And I mean, you've attacked this from the image standpoint, not the image standpoint, but from the
Look,
attire, the look
yes.
standpoint. We're trying to do something adjacent to that. But when you started, like what was happening? What were some of the things that you saw that people were doing that were mistakes from either a construction of the ceremony. Let's start with ceremonies. From a construction of the ceremony standpoint, how did they mess it up? How did it become boring? Why was it boring?
By exactly what you just described, not making it personal. And I even think back to when, because my husband and I, we got married in 2004. And I think even when I look at our wedding, and it was one of those ones where it was like, oh my gosh, like it's literally just rote memory. This is what you do. 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 But I think when you look at when we kind of put in our personality with different things, like, so we got married earlier in the day and we had an after party at our favorite bar that we went to. Everyone thought we were crazy. Like literally everyone, and I say everyone as in like a lot of our family, and they were like, "What?" They were like, "Who does that?"
You're not having to
But I
sit
think
down like
I mean, and
formal
we
thing. Yeah,
did, and
yeah,
no,
yeah.
we didn't have a sit down there because I think I couldn't even, oh my God, it might have been a 2 o'clock wedding. Oh my gosh, I feel horrible by saying that, but it probably was a 2 o'clock wedding. But we went out because it was like our favorite bar that we went to and our favorite club that we went to, and that's where we went and we partied. And it was one of those things that I think a big mistake, especially then for us, and when I saw in planning, not personalizing it, not making it your own. Like, inject yourself into it somewhere, inject you and your partner into it somewhere. That's where that personalization comes. That's where it's not boring
Mm-hmm.
because people know, oh, this isn't a Jimmy and Chiffon event. Like this is a Jimmy and Chiffon event because it was parts of us in it. So I think that's the one mistake I will say. They don't personalize.
And sometimes that is being driven by a family member, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps one that's paying for it, perhaps one that's
Mm-hmm.
just very dominant in their opinions, and and has 100 people that they want to invite. But some of these events obviously become displays, if not displays of wealth, then displays of achievement of some kind or another, right? And they don't want to be embarrassed by it being hokey or something like that. But I think that what's lost in that sometimes is humor. Humor and personality gets dropped out of it sometimes, don't you think?
Oh my gosh, 100%. And I think the part of it is that I myself, along with my husband, we are very humorous people, very like just comical people, very happy, upbeat people. So for us, it is a little bit easier to inject that into anything we do. But I think even when I look back on past clients and when I look back on people just I've seen and different like features and stuff that we've had on all the publications, there are a lot of people that don't have that. There are a lot of people that don't have that naturally. So I can see where it's hard to do that. But then when you have someone who comes on that can help pull that out of you, because we all have some type of humor, or even if it's like a crazy dark humor, like we pretty much all have some humor there. But sometimes you just need someone to come along and pull that out.
So, what
And
was
I
your
think
ceremony
that
like? What was your ceremony like? Do you remember it? Did you do your own vows?
we didn't do our own vows. We had like the normal vows that were just said by, and I love our pastor who did, he was actually the father of a friend I went to college with. So like we had the normal ones that we did. We actually did more of our personal things when we went for the after party.
Hmm.
So like we did like the whole thank you and everything. And but that was more of like our like friends and like close family. So we felt a little bit more comfortable there. But yeah, no, we did the normal vows that he said, and then we kind of had some more personal ones that we did at our after party.
You know what's funny is, so Nicole and I got married 7 years ago, and I didn't even think to do my own vows. That wasn't even on my radar. Even though I was a writer, it just wasn't something that we ever discussed. It didn't occur to me to do it, and apparently it had occurred to Nicole. but she felt, and even though she's a good writer, she felt a little outmatched and didn't want to do it. But we had our good friend Doc, who's a very successful political consultant and speech writer. He's a great writer and very personable. And so we had him as our officiant. And, he gets up there and he's really into Elvis, and he was doing this whole kind of Elvis thing and Elvis themed speech. And he had all these notes, and we were so nervous and we were so anxious to get to the party that we got up there, and Nicole felt like she was gonna she was just like getting anxious, and she gets up there and she goes, "Make this quick."
And I can so see her saying that.
Yeah, and so she dropped, so he dropped like a third of the script, and that, it was still great. It was still great. Of course, we don't have any video of it because we were, stupid. We didn't get a videographer, but
I think back too.
Yeah.
I feel like someone did record it, and so I feel like someone did. I don't even know where it is. Couldn't even tell you where it is.
None of my good friends in the audience, you go to every other wedding and they've got cameras sticking up and people are always in the way, and not one of my friends got video. Someone got video of the speech, but nobody got video of the ceremony, which is a shame.
Well, and I have to tell you though, I remember walking down and I was like, I can't even remember what I was bawling about.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't have even been able to get my composure together enough to really have said. So that's probably why we never, because I don't even know what I was upset. And it wasn't upset. I think I was just so emotional. I think I was just emotional and walking down with my stepdad and so everything. But I don't even know if I would have been able to verbally really embody what I wanted to say anyway.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it actually came up on a client call earlier. I know that when you practice your vows over and over again, that it takes enough of the sting out of the word, the newness, the freshness that you get. Oh my God, I'm getting married. And when you get that thing in your heart, and you think that you're just going to well up and explode with tears, that may happen a few times, but upon the 10th or 11th reading, you're still emotional. It's going to be emotional. You're going to be doing it on stage, but it won't have the same impact as the first 3 or 4 times that you did it. Mm-hmm. So for the people that, and we have a ton of them that are so worried about falling apart in the middle of this, it's just repetition, because then you're not acting this, but you're giving it enough practice to where you can perform it. If that makes sense.
Actually, yeah. Oh my gosh, it makes complete sense, and I love that. It's because I'm not normally that type of person. You see me, I will go up and I will do a speech, and I even rarely have notes a lot of times. And I think it's just because it comes second nature to me, or if I'm talking about something I know. But in those moments, what you just said makes complete sense. Because in that moment, I was emotional and I was not in my normal character, and I wouldn't have been able to even think about any words. Whereas normally, I'm just kind of oh yeah, I'm going to talk about whatever I talk about. But on that day, I could 100% see that for so many people.
And that's the same, and it's the same thing with fear. It's not just love and raw emotion, it's also fear. And if you're fearful about how you are going to perform, then the practice takes a lot of that fear away, because then, hey, look, I've already done this. I've already gotten through it without stammering. I'm one of those people, and I don't know if it's just because I do it or because I had a couple of concussions in high school football, probably the latter, but I tend to stammer. I tend to do all of those things. All that. It's just natural to me, dude, whatever. And the only way I don't do them is when I'm really, really, really concentrating on it, or I've practiced what I'm about to say, right? There's a great example. I hadn't practiced that line, so I stumbled over it. But if I did it again, I would do it fine. And so by reciting it over and over and over again, by getting familiar with the content to where your mind already goes to where you're about to go, and you're not reading and performing at the same time, really, then that comes out of it. I don't feel comfortable being an extemporaneous speaker, but I absolutely feel comfortable speaking when I know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about.
Well, that's the thing.
Right,
Competency leads to confidence, and
right,
that's the main thing.
right.
Competency leads to confidence. When we feel competent, and that competency can be anything. Like competent is not just knowing, but it's feeling it too. And so, I tell people all the time, like, what makes you a confident person? Because I'm confident in everything that I'm saying, everything I'm doing. So I'm a naturally confident. Okay, we might have some, just like you said, I might have some stuck stambling, I might have some ahs, but if I'm confident, oh, there's nothing. I'm confident all day long.
And if you start crying, that's okay. I talked about this in the first episode a little bit, but in my opinion, I'll get yours. But I love it when people cry. Not to the point where they can't get through it, of course, but like you want to see a little bit of emotion. You want to see some of that, right? When when, Robin Ballard in the first episode, she's like, when grooms cry, that's a hallmark moment. That's wonderful. I love that, right?
No,
I
like I'm
love,
like, if you don't cry when I'm coming down the aisle, I don't want you anymore.
yeah.
Like, come on now. Like you, I want to see that crying because it's like connects to me. It connects with me.
When I'm helping somebody write a speech, my goal is to do two things: to have them choke up as they give it a little, and to make everybody else cry at the same time, right? I want that to happen at least once, right?
That's when you know I've done my job.
Right,
I've
then
done my
right,
job.
right. That's the goal. That's one of the goals. You want them to laugh too. That's another thing, right? You don't want it to be all serious. But what are some of the worst things you've seen? What along the way, or either seen or heard of? What are some of the worst stories you've heard when it comes to either ceremonies or somebody's vows or a wedding speech?
I think the thing is, and I think it's very funny that you brought up the emotion part of things. I have had, and I remember this wedding, like you always remember the bad, like I don't want to say the bad ones because it wasn't bad. It was just where you were like it's those ones you remember. And I remember that the bride did her speech, it was amazing. Then the groom did it, and it was very just non-emotional. Like you have a bride who just spilled out her guts and like was like, "Oh my gosh, I love you," and kind of a little backstory how they met, things of that nature. And then you have a groom that just shared no emotion,
Mm-hmm.
like nothing.
No
And then
emotion.
we're
Yeah.
like no emotion, and not even like I need you to make me fall on my seat. I need you to make me cry, but like almost to match it. You know what I'm saying? Like if this is a highly emotional here, it looks very odd when your partner is non-emotional because then you start thinking, is that the person for them? Like, do they actually really care about them? And I think us as being, because that's when I was a planner, being in the back, and we're like, and then you could just see everyone in the crowd being like, are
What
they actually going to work?
like there's tone, there's the tone of it, and then there's the words themselves. Was it
I would
both
say
or
it was the words of themselves because and
okay?
I don't want, and it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be where she was bawling or it wasn't even that. It was just, it was a very emotional, like, I care about you. This is all the stuff we've done. This is everything. This is like literally giving the backstory of their love.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by emotional. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. This is great. Like, and I was just like, we were like, oh gosh. Like, and then we're in the back. So obviously we can see everyone. And we're like, oh wow.
This is
They
great.
all felt it. They all felt it. And they were all like, oh wow. And I think it was, and obviously, they were fine. They are still made, they're fine. And that's just their two personalities. But I think if there would have been some, and I'm not saying that I am nowhere near as a planner, I would never have embarked on someone's vows at all. But I think it could have definitely been something that someone who knew vows, who knew how to incorporate them, how to match them, how to make sure it flowed well, that would have been caught. Because that would have been like, okay, let's equally match each other so that it's not the one-sided because it was very obvious. And like I said, the audience knew, oh, well, we know they love each other. We know that they're good, but it's just the point of like, it was very jarring
Yeah.
to have this very love-filled, oh my God, love
Oh
story, love
yeah.
story, love story. And then it was like, oh wow. Like,
Well, this is a message to the audience, okay? Audience, whoever's listening out there, imagine someone says, "I love you. I love you so much. You mean the world to me." And you go, "This is great." I mean,
and that's what I'm telling you. Like, Brian, like it was very like, and I remember it, and it's so funny. I remember like because you remember the ones that are like that. As,
yeah.
as anyone who's in the industry, you remember the ones that are like that. And I just was like, oh wow. And then you just see everyone else being, Oh, wow. And so, and yes, I agree. It is literally, and you can tell he loved her, he cared about her. It just didn't match it for a
Yeah,
ceremony.
it didn't get tapped in, right?
Yes.
Do you remember incidents or weddings, I should say? Let's not call them incidents, right? They're
Yes.
weddings. I don't know if I should edit that out or not. That's funny. Like, yeah, let's just call it. Let's not call it incidents. Do you remember weddings where the ceremony sticks out as being just unbelievable in its content or in the vows? I mean, just something in there where you were like, wow, that person really nailed it.
Yeah, no,
And if so,
and I will
why?
say there, as being someone who, especially with Pretty Pair Bride, I saw a lot of them. But even now that I see so many more, just with all the different publications, I think the ones that always stand out, and this is like I said, now where I see videos and things like that, since I'm not from the planning side of things, I'm from just the publication side of things. The one thing that always stands out to me of one that I'm like, oh my gosh, literally are the ones where I feel emotionally connected. And not like emotionally like I'm crying or I'm bawling, but like I feel the love. And I feel the love because I see it here with this partner, and I see it here with this partner, and I see it on their faces, and I see it in their words, and I hear it in what they're saying. Like, those are the ones that have knocked it out of the box for me. And
Yeah,
I'm like, sometimes the images themselves are not even that amazing, but the video is amazing because of all of that is caught in it. And I'm like, those are the ones that I'm always like, that got knocked out of the park. Where they walk away, anyone in the crowd walks away, or anyone who sees that video, and they're like, I felt like I was there. And it wasn't about the flowers, it wasn't about the dress, or it was about them and their love and how it was evoked in their words and their body language and all of that at the altar or at, wherever they're doing their ceremony. Oh my God, those are the ones that are knocked out of the box.
yeah. People talk about love languages, and there's those categories, and
The five, yep.
yeah, the five categories of love languages, which I think are a little too rigid, but part of our interview process, we get into that idea at least without getting jingoistic with it. We ask them, how does that person show their love for you, and what are the specifics? What are some of the instances that when you look back, like that was the moment that I knew this guy or this woman really had it for me. Like they were the one. And I remember one of the first ones. There was a bride. Well, they were dating, and she got sick. It was one of their first dates, and I don't know if she was too drunk or she got food poisoning, but whatever. She got sick, and it was like it was raining out, and he still got like super close to her and put the jacket over the head and walked her to the door and talked to the grandmother. And meanwhile, it was just like this whole embarrassing date. I hope I'm not conflating stories here, but but at any rate, like there's stuff like that that's come up, and these gestures that perhaps perhaps they're not on their own, like, oh, that person loves me, but when it was like a first sign of a character in that, or a first sign of the character within them
Oh,
that
wow.
that starts to come out, and it's the beginning of a storyline that has a few different chapters of that kind of thing, and all of a sudden you realize this is a person of that's great, that's a great person, and that love not only loves her but is conscientious and does this for them and does this for them, and so it's that story that has to be told for people to go, oh wow, this is she's really
Yep.
doing the right thing here.
Yep.
you know
And I love that the
yeah.
story. Like, I think now that I think back to it, there have all been like the ones that are definitely sticking out. It was a story. It was like not just a moment, but there was a story that you, as the person in the audience, felt like you were being taken on and taking on their whole journey of their love. And like, and it's so funny that you said it because I didn't really even think of it like that until you just pointed it out. But it was very much like, and you felt like you were on that journey with them, and that's where the emotion came in. And like I keep saying emotion, and it's not like the crying and like, but it's the emotion of their love and
hmm
like how they care about each other. But it was very much a storyline or a story that you were brought into. Those are the ones that I always felt the most impacted by.
and not everybody in the audience, I'll probably say this every episode, but not everybody in the audience knows them as a couple.
Mm.
They don't necessarily know their story. They might have been met through work, or they might know one side through the family, but they don't necessarily know what makes them them. And pushing that in is important. What about wedding speeches? Do you anything stick out? Fathers of the brides or best men that really ran it right
Man,
into the mountain?
man. I think the thing with the wedding speeches, and when I think back to when I was doing weddings, wedding speeches were not as they are now. Because now they're very much like they'll rap songs. They're just very a little bit different, more personalized than they were before. But I think when I think back to wedding planning time, as opposed to now as being a publisher and seeing things, wedding planning time, I think the ones that I saw that were done very well, and I think most people think, oh, well, you don't want to say anything bad about them, or you don't want to talk about those like crazy nights that you all might have had growing up. But honestly, I love to hear that because once again, that's part of the story. Like I like to hear that. But it's the way that it's delivered. And I think that's where the difference comes in because I've seen some that were this like pretty much the same content as in like we used to get drunk, we used to go out and they did all this craziness, which we all know growing up you might have done, but it was the way it was delivered. And I think that delivery helps to make it more impactful, makes it more funny, makes it more lighthearted, even though you're talking about something that might be crazy, as opposed to someone who's just like, oh, we did this and then we did this, and you're like, that's probably not the best way to say that. And
It
those are the differences for me when I saw in the beginning, like when I was planning
and it
between the
should
good ones and the bad
and
ones.
it should be tied to something. It should be tied to the friendship, or it should be tied to growth, or it should be tied to how they met, or whatever.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I think those things are fine as long as you know you're not doing harm. That
Mm-hmm.
to
Exactly.
either side, right? And part of that also involves the audience. It's not just doing harm to the couple. It's, are you going to say something that the audience kind of gasps at
Mm-hmm.
and goes, oh, that's not, oof, right? I wouldn't want that said in my wedding.
Yeah.
Or is the audience going to laugh in a good way? And because you can shut a room down by saying the wrong thing, and
Oh my gosh,
even
yes.
if the couple's unfazed, if the room is like, whoa, you don't want them talking about it like, wow, can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the past can do that for some. Right? There are
Oh
some
my gosh,
stories. I
yes.
mean, I'm going to feature some of them, but there's people that have admitted all types of things on stage that really shouldn't be admitted openly anywhere. Really,
That's not one in the back. Someone's like, cut it, like
yeah.
stop talking.
I forget who told me, but there was a bride where the maid of honor started talking about the bride's relationship with one of the high school teachers or something like that. I mean, it was, yeah,
What?
yeah, bad, really bad. I wish I
Right, your
knew. I wish
face,
I could
like it's
remember.
so bad. I love like you're like bad, so bad.
Yeah.
Like that's really
Like the
bad.
kind of stuff that would wind up viral if only somebody
Yes.
had
Like if it
recorded
was
it. Yeah.
now.
So that leads me to video. One of the driving factors in personalization, I think, is that people are seeing this kind of personalization, not just in the photos, not just in magazines or on websites, but through video of ceremonies, through video of speeches, video of vows, and these clips, these even one line or two lines can go viral very quickly. But talk about the influence of video on the wedding business, not just perhaps with speeches, but just overall, and how that's driving creativity.
Well, I think the thing is every time frame has a thing that is the inspiration, that is the driver for things, that is the driver for trends. So we are just coming out of imagery being that. Because and that's the whole rise of TikTok, the whole rise of Pinterest. Like everything was very image driven. We're now into a time where everything is video driven. And the thing is that's where everyone is getting their creativity from. That's where everyone's getting their inspiration because now it's just not about the picture, it's about the video. So the thing is that whatever you're doing, that's what people are using for their own inspiration. So if they see a speech, or if they see like the entrances that people are making for some of like where the wedding party is being interested to the reception, oh my gosh, some of these things are grand. The dances, everything. That's the imagery that we're using now as inspiration. So it's all there in video form. So that's what we're using. That's our phase right now. That's our time period is video. That's why video is so monumental, because that's what we're using for inspiration right now.
And that's why we have so many very cute dogs, right? And all the, cause, I mean, like, if TikTok has been good for anything, it's been good for like wedding videos and cute pups, right? And, like
Well,
videos of cute pups. So
I
when
also,
you
I'm not
combine
gonna
the
lie.
two, right?
I'm food too. I'm food. Like I will be, oh my God, you will, if you start making something on TikTok, I'm gonna sit there for the whole time and watch what you're making and be like, I can make that tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
But that's one too that gets me.
I
So that's the
I
inspiration.
have some ingenious like chopping devices because Nicole saw something on TikTok. But
Oh my gosh. Yes.
but one of the questions I ask now, because everybody's so into their dogs, and I'm telling you, I have multiple clients that have dogs that have bigger Instagram followers than you and me combined, right? And I should say bigger followings. But one of the questions that I ask now is, how does there anything about the way they treat their dog that makes you think they're going to be a good parent? And it's like if we're doing a wedding speech, right? Or even in the vows, I'll say, because a lot of times they have dogs before the wedding, and how do they treat their dog? Like, oh my God, they're the best dog dad, or you should
That
see
is the
them chasing
best.
the dog, or he uses the cat, like he makes a shotgun out of the cat and pretends to rack it, and we it becomes fodder, but it's part of their person. It's part of their daily personality. It's part of something that
Yes.
happens and it's part of their lives. So we try and infuse that as much as possible now,
Oh
because
my
it's
gosh.
such a
I would
thing.
have never thought of that, Brian, but that is so good because that really is tapping into someone's personality. Like
Yeah,
it really is tapping into
we don't
someone's
do it
personality.
about cats though. The cats are jerks. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm just
we
kidding.
don't
I'm
have
just
cats.
kidding.
We have a dog. I mean, to
Just
all
my
my cat
cat.
lovers, I
No, I
love
have a
you, but
wonderful
you're a
cat.
cat.
She's a very wonderful cat that's destroyed every
But we're
piece of
that cat.
furniture, right? That's destroyed every piece of furniture we have in this house. And
Oh my
so,
gosh,
but
that's
that
so
would, if
funny.
we were renewing our vows, that would have to go in there somewhere, because it's a constant debate about whether we should get the furniture redone. And I'm like, for what purpose? The cat's just gonna see it as treat day, right? And so
You
let's
got
just
new
wait.
furniture? Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A new canvas for me to scratch on. Wonderful, right? So it kind of cost us. We accidentally locked the cat in our bedroom recently, and for a little too long, and all of a sudden we had to get a new mattress
Oh,
because
I was about to be like, yep, they get
yeah,
pissed.
yeah. So I mean that kind of stuff is the fun. That's the funny parts of life. Those are the
Hmm.
funny parts of life that we should really incorporate into our story at some level or another. And not that I would talk about too much about cats, but I think if that's part of your life and that's part of how people express their personality and their love in their family, then let's put it in, right?
Well,
If you
I
want
think it's
to. Yeah.
everything. Like when you look at in specific, like I keep thinking, even for us, like if we were to renew our vows, we just had our 20th and we should have done it already. But anyway,
We can still do it.
um, we can't, I know, we probably will do some off year 21, 22. It'll be fine. But like, I feel like we have so much that we put in, like we're huge bourbon lovers. We like it's so much stuff that when I think about it, that you just said about your life and what makes you as a couple, or there's so much out there that people might not even really know about you can incorporate into your vows like that. And I think that's such a huge thing.
One of my recent couples, and I'm going to try and have them on, they met on the flag football field, in a co-ed flag football field. So a lot of the ceremony talks about this, but one of the guys that his best friend was also on the team, so we had a lot of fun poking at the fact that he can't catch a football. The one guy, he's very good as a coach and perhaps as a defender, but can't catch a football, right? So we had fun with that, and everybody laughed, and
Mhm.
it's great.
I
So
love that. So good.
Shafonne, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. What are you doing next? You're going to engage. You're going to give a speech, right? You're going to
Yes.
teach us some stuff,
Yes, I'm
And
super
do you have
excited.
anything exciting to announce, or we're just going to keep on keeping on?
We are going to keep on keeping on, but it is some big stuff coming out. I know that like we're creating a new Owl Society website, so
Wonderful.
that's being built out. Super, super excited about that because it's like Owl Society is the media company, but it's never been its own publication.
So,
And so now it'll be its own publication in addition to all the other publications. So we're super excited about that. But yeah, just keep on keeping on. I
how do
love that.
people find you? How do people find Isle Society, Pretty Pair? Tell them where to go.
I personally like to send everyone kind of to my personal page at Shafonne Myers. That's kind of where I like to play. That's where I go. I'm in my DMs. I'm talking to people. But from there, you can get to all the publications that I own. That have links to Our Society. I have links to all my publications that you can find. But yeah, I usually kind of start everyone at Shafonne Myers.
Okay, and just for everybody's sake, if you, I'll put it in the notes for the episode. But if you're in your car, it's S8, and you want to text and drive right now. It's
Yes.
Shafonne Myers Myers. Chiffon, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having
Yeah,
me on. And your little voice, I was like, okay. Ryan with his like phone, I was like, okay. That was like a radio voice, the way you spelled that. I was like, okay, yes.
I,
That
I
sounds
can do
great.
it. It's Chiffon Myers, Shafonne Myers. Chiffon.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
loved it. I was like, oh,
Yes,
I hadn't heard that
I
the way you
always
said it.
wanted
I
to be.
loved it.
I was a DJ at the Miami-Dade Community College for about 3 months, and at the in like the 2 a.m. shift, playing lots of indie rock and post punk, and nobody listened to me. There was like one person, right, and that would listen. So I got to just work on my radio voice that I never worked on or used again. So
See, you're using it
yeah,
now, so this
there you go.
sounds great. I
There
was
you go.
like, I had not heard that
Then you
before.
can
That
get
sounds
really
good.
close and do the movie voice. So anyway,
Oh, thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
Thanks again for coming in. Okay,
Of course. Oh my God. Have a good one. Thank
take
you.
care.